Most of us often chase rather pumps than established memes. And a green candle is somehow spoiled for us until it's screenshot. We stare at charts, forgetting it changes nothing. We watch charts, but not ourselves. This is a disaster. For as a result of confusing dopamine hits with actual profit, we are destroying our net worth. We are so tied up in FOMO and charts that we've lost all conviction. Time to wake up. What is alpha? Obviously, nobody can say, because it isn't just drawing lines on charts. It isn't rotation meta, that's just an idea. Alpha is the Giga cycle cannot be explained in words.
Let's get ready to rumble! I love that intro, man. So good.
It reminds me of Jock Jams when I was a kid.
What's Jock Jam?
Oh, man. Jock Jams was elite, dude. That's like got to be mid-90s. You know,
Sounds like a bacteria or something. Oh, I got
dude,
a bad
Jock Jams. It's like the sports one. Oh, like pump the jam. You don't remember that? Oh, God.
I know that track. That's a banger.
Dude, that's Jock Jams, you damn Canadian.
Hey, man, why you got to bring my country to this?
Speaking of your country, Shine.
Hey, relax. I'm in a good mood.
No, the current one. What a feat to send you said Giga gear.
Bro, it's
Dude.
I have
insane.
another Giga package, and I've been trying to get it over here for 3 months. Finally got it to Thailand, thinking it would be quick from Thailand over here. They quoted him like 2 or 3 weeks from Thailand. So I'm just
now I don't know. They didn't tell me a time. Honestly, but I know 100% it's going there. I had to fill out so many pieces of paper. My daughter's in there running around, and then so there's like handrails, and she like won't let me hold her, so I'm just letting her run around. And I'm at the desk, I'm like finalizing it, and all I hear is like donk. And I like look back, and I just see her on the floor, and I'm like, no, and she like hit the top of her head on the handrail, and I'm thinking she's gonna start screaming, right? So I'm like, oh, you're right, like, you're right. I pick her up and doesn't cry one time. Instead, she just looks at me like this. She's like,
just like her neurodivergent father.
Dude. And I was like, all right, if there's anything I've learned from this week, first of all, what a great week to do an episode on sleep, because
How are you doing, bro?
The lack of sleep I've got all week. I mean, I'd say I probably got like 8 hours for the crowd, just so you know. I got 2 children with sickness all week, bro.
I got that last night. Feel amazing.
Yeah, all week. Got 2 kids with hand, foot, and mouth. One of them's got strep, and the other one's got swimmer's ear. So it's been a week.
I got hand, foot, and mouth disease as an adult. Unreal. A lot of people are immune to it. It was me and one other jacked circus Viking. We were the only adults that were symptomatic from it. It laid us out, bro. It was like my entire hands when it came on.
So you had it on your hands, right?
I was trimming at the time, and when it came on, it was just an eruption, man. Like my whole hands just felt on fire, blisters, mouth, everywhere. Like, well, it's hand, feet, and mouth, but like inside of my mouth room, my hands, my legs, it was like the plague, bro.
Dude, that's what they got. They got it in their mouth right now. Interesting. Not on the hands or feet, just in the mouth. But
you're lucky. You must be immune to it, because it laid me out.
Yeah, apparently it's like super contagious to the parents. I've been lucky. My son got it when we were in the city. I didn't get it. I think it was that blue collar work. I have enough chemicals still in my body.
It was ironic, because the only adults that got it in our friend circle were me and the other like jacked Aryan circus guy. Like everyone else was fine. It was just like the two muscular blonde bros. We were just like, we were screwed.
But yeah, like one thing I would say this week taught me is like I'm not going to sit here and say I'm smart because I'm not, but I'm really good at like reading and memorizing things. It's something that I had picked
I'll
up
say
when I
it,
was
dude.
early.
You are a freaking genius. I can read something 100 times. I'm street smart. You know, I like to think I'd like to tell myself I have an IQ of 79. I just found out via some random thing, which I thought was very good.
Mine was 77 to give you an idea of how hard. Yeah, of how hard I had to try.
That's fake news.
But that's just from like I've been studying since like junior high. It was just like what I had to do. And like my dad was one of those guys that like everything's competition. Thank God he made it like that. So like school to me was like, well, I need to beat everyone in this class. And I'm a dumbass, so I'm just gonna study more than them. So like reading though, I'm very good at reading, interpreting, keeping it in my head. Like usually I could read something a few times and then I could pretty much just see it in my brain, just like rip through it. Actually, it's funny. I can't look at the screen and rip through it, but if I look down, I could see it. But this week, that capacity is probably at like 5%. Like all the stuff that I read, like I can't
that's
pull
insulting.
it up. Right? I can't really pull it up.
Context. Rain Mang was telling me he was nervous about this one. He wanted to do an interview. He's like, "You're gonna have to carry this, bro. Like I haven't been able to." We're talking a little bit about the stream before it starts, and I'm reciting stats of things I spent hours trying to memorize, and he's correcting me. He's like, "No, actually, it's 34%." I'm like, "Fuck you, bro."
Dude, so what did you think about doing the research this week? What did you think? What were your thoughts?
I mean, I'm a big believer in sleep. I made a post about this the other day. I really think the no sleep season is a complete psyop. When I even, to apply it to crypto, even this last month, it wasn't spending 12 hours every single day, just dopamine hijack, checking my Telegram. It was 2 decisions that made me the biggest amount of wealth. It was just 2 decisions. I could have worked 6 hours that entire month. And if I made those 2 decisions correctly, I would have outperformed every single piece of alpha, every single notification. Yeah. I think no sleep season is complete bullshit. I really do. You know me, I'm a big tinfoil hat guy. I think this whole no sleep thing, I think this was just a coordinated psyop to make people okay with not being able to sleep enough to go to their factory jobs. I really think that. Or maybe it's a psyop by the cabal that want you sleep deprived so you're making stupid decisions and you're losing all of your money. I'm a firm believer. It's not about how much time you spend working, because when we get into the stats, you're going to see.
Yeah.
You're going to see your diminished capacity. So what good is it working more if you're getting less out of it? Really?
No, I agree with that. First of all, like totally. As someone that went through all of that, dude, I used to sleep like 4 hours a night and tell myself I was in that, 1% of the population that could function on 4 hours of sleep. But with that being said, don't get me wrong. There's times that, shit happens. Like this week, I had no control over that, but I can tell you right now, I feel it. But one thing that I found interesting about this research, right? So science is always changing. You really saw it with the peptide research, and then you saw it even more with the fasting research, right? Just how drastic the changes were on fasting research from 10 years ago to today in terms of is it good, is it bad? One thing about the sleep data is, I mean, it's pretty consistent, man. You know what I'm saying? Like all the way through. And then, so metadata, right? So metadata is just, they're able to extrapolate a ton of data and find trends in big sets of data. It got really big in like the late 2000s. Actually, when I was on Wall Street is when it got really big. And I remember this guy came in one time and we were at like this fancy dinner and he's like, yeah, we're raising money for this. We're a metadata company. And these Wall Street guys were like laughing at him, like, metadata, what are you gay? Like they didn't even know what it was. And I just remember him laughing at them like, no, that's just how old you are. You don't even understand. This is the future of everything. And I remember going up to him like, dude, can you explain this to me? And he was like, yeah, dude, picture having access to thousands upon thousands of data points and being able to find the trends in all of them. So metadata really got big, started in 2000, but really took off in like the late 2010. So once science was able to really like dive into metadata, it helped find like correlations amongst data, right? So with the sleep, like applying that to sleep, there really is just concrete cornerstone facts that no new research in the last 30 years has been able to disprove that you need to sleep. Like sleep is, and since this is a fitness stream, sleep is detrimental for muscle recovery, muscle growth, muscle repair. So many things to do with your body. Like it is literally imperative. And there is hundreds upon hundreds of studies that prove this. We'll dive into a couple of them, but that was interesting to me. It's like, man, this is like one of those subjects that there really isn't data to refute it. Like there isn't like that counterparty data where it's like, no, actually you don't need to sleep.
We're not gonna have some bodybuilder in the DMs afterwards.
It's
8 hours is bullshit, bro.
And like one thing though, I will say that I don't want to be taken away from this stream is that, oh well, Shineman said like if I'm tired, I should just not go to the gym. It's like that is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is you need to be efficient with your timing, like a structure throughout the day where you could still fit in that workout and fit in that you have a slot as hard as you can to get 8 hours of sleep. That's what I'm saying. And when you start to do that, because this is something that I started to implement like a year ago, really, because I could just feel it. My brain felt like mush. Like I said, I'm always good at like memorizing, reading. My brain was just dead. And once I started to do that, I realized like, no, you actually probably do have the time. Right? On a general day, you actually probably do have the time for 8 hours. You just don't realize it because there's so much fluff in your schedule. 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 20 minutes here. There's your hour. That's your workout. You know what I'm saying? Like it's very easy to structure your day to fit sleep in. That's like one thing I want to say. Like, I'm not telling you not to work out because you're tired. That's not what this is about. What we're saying is it is detrimental to performing at a high level, trying as hard as you can to get 8 hours of sleep a night, and I'm not saying that if you get 7, you're going to die, or if you get 6, you're going to, but there is just data, man. There's data that proves that 7 to 9 is really what the data says, right? 7 to 9 hours is like the pocket for adults. It changes with age, but basically from 18 to 65, it's like 7 to 9 hours of sleep a day. Like you need that for your brain. Cardiovascular, right? The data on lack of sleep or cardiovascular stuff was pretty interesting to me, like how much it increases if you sleep less than 6 hours a day, which I want to say cardiovascular disease is, if it's not number one, it's top 3 killers in America. So it's pretty crazy to think that just based on like this stream, right? like just eating a little better and sleeping, you could significantly reduce your chances of one of the biggest killers of adults in America. So I think, and again, I like when the stream is on something that doesn't cost money. I think that's important to me because too much of this space is about money. And it's like, this is about effort. This is about discipline, So I thought it was cool. It was cool to research as I was sleep deprived.
Yeah. A few things to touch on there, right? So I think in crypto in particular, people have a complete lack of deep work. We always have our notifications on, Twitter, Telegram. We're constantly stuck in this dopaminergic feedback loop. We want to check notifications, be on Telegram. A lot of that work can actually be cut out. I was really blessed this week that my phone, it kind of stopped working. So I was leaving the house and I realized, okay, deep work is something that a lot of us lose in crypto. And if you can actually structure your schedule around having deep work, personally, I've been very, very surprised at how much more I can get done in a short period if it's deliberate and if it's deep work. Yeah, but again, if my mental cognition is severely declined due to a lack of sleep, it's going to be very hard to get that deep work in. So I think that kind of attests to the fluff. It's not necessarily that we don't have time to get a proper night's rest. It's A, we don't think it's important, and we'll jump into why it actually is really important. And B, we're not really structuring our day to make sure that we're doing the important things in slotted windows and being more efficient and being more effective.
So I would say a good place to start with this topic would be just to explain the sleep cycle. I think a lot of people don't really.
What is sleep first?
Yeah, there you go. Hit me with what is sleep?
So sleep is an active state that runs essential programs, memory consolidation, emotional reset. And I want to emphasize here, this is an active state. Okay? Runs essential programs, memory consolidation, emotional reset, immune tuning, metabolic balance, and neural waste clearance, aka glymphatic. The way you think of that is these toxins kind of build up in your brain throughout the day. When you go to sleep, cerebral fluid comes in your brain. This only happens when you're asleep. Cerebral fluid comes in your brain and it clears out those toxins. That's why if you've ever pulled an all-nighter, you notice how you feel incredibly foggy. That's because you have a buildup of those toxins. Your body hasn't had that process of reducing, the neural metabolic waste.
Which is kind of crazy. So like that system consists of your, I'm pretty sure it's your eyes and your inner ear. Aside from your main organs, those are the only things that are not paralyzed during deep sleep, is your eyes and that system, which includes your inner ear, and because that's how it drains it out. That's how it drains it out of your brain, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, something really interesting. I think Matthew Walker is probably like the guy in study. Something really interesting that I heard him point out is when you think about sleep from an evolutionary standpoint, how truly detrimental it is from a survival instinct. Like there's literally points in your night you're not looking for a mate, you're not feeding, you're not doing anything that we would see as essential for survival. So that kind of just shows you on a physiological sense, we never evolved out of that. Yep. So it shows you how truly important sleep is, because it seems completely counterintuitive to our own survival. And I think that's the way a lot of people frame it. I'm just wasting my time sleeping my life away. It's 1/3 of your life is spent in sleep.
No, I think that's a good point. Like, right, like evolution, like if it wasn't needed, it would have been evolved out. You know what I mean? If we needed to sleep a lot, like we've kind of been sleeping. We've actually been sleeping less. The truth is, like hunter-gatherers, when the sun went up, right there, so that's where circadian rhythm comes from, right? Sun rose, they woke up, sun set, they started to get ready for bed. Pretty much 10, 12 hours of sleep. That was kind of what it was. So we've actually slept less, but yeah, you cannot not sleep. If we could have, it would have been evolved out.
They slept in a biphasic stage. So they would sleep, I think, 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
They'd wake up in the middle of the night. That was usually to tend to the fire, do a few other things, and then they would go back to sleep. So they actually, I believe it's biphasic.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's the definition of sleep. So then the sleep cycle, it's one of those things where like people try to make it super complicated. I don't really think it's that complicated to understand the basics of it. But essentially you have two parts of your sleep. We all hear about REM sleep, right? Rapid eye movement sleep. That's one part of it. And then there's non-rapid eye movement. Those are the two parts. But the non-rapid eye movement breaks down into 3 stages. They call it N1, N2, and N3. And we spend almost no time in N1. N1 is basically when you lay down, right? I think it's 1 to 5% of your sleep is in that. All that's happening in that stage is it's putting you into what's called like a sleeping state, right? So heart rate starts to come down, cortisol levels come down. We're going to talk about cortisol in a little bit. Cortisol levels come down. It's literally like 7 minutes in the beginning of your sleep. Then there's N2. N2 is where we spend roughly half of our time, right? So N2 is basically where we spend half of our time sleeping. And N2 basically is where we digest kind of what we did that day, right? Like they call them sleep spindles. It's kind of like our brain has like pops of activity, but we start to like really like come down. This is where we like strengthen neural connections. Again, we go over like stuff that happened that day. Metabolic functions start to regulate. It's really just preparing the body for the next stage. And since this is about fitness, the next stage is N3, right? So this is the last stage of non-REM sleep. This is the only part of sleep that you fix yourself physically. It is the only part of the sleep cycle focused on physical restoration, right? And I think that's super important because
that's it only sleep, right?
Yeah, so that's what's called deep sleep, not to be confused with REM sleep. A lot of people that don't understand, they think when they see deep sleep, when they're reading something, is REM sleep. It's not. Those are two different things. Deep sleep is the last stage of non-REM sleep. And again, this is the only part of your sleeping cycle that focuses on healing the body. And when I say sleeping cycle, the way that we sleep is kind of interesting. A sleep cycle lasts about 90 seconds. So what that means is from N1 to N2, 90 minutes. N1, N2, N3 REM sleep. That's one cycle. We do that every 90 minutes, 4 to 6 times a night. And it changes throughout the night as you like go later into the night. That's when REM sleep comes on. But we sleep in these waves, right? And so N3 is interesting because what that does is that's when like our body is fully relaxed, cortisol levels are totally down, and this is like literally physical recovery. So you're talking about release of growth hormones, actually 2 different anabolic hormones, right? So that's growth hormone and testosterone. So this is where we literally build back tissue, muscle, anything that we worked out, any type of resistance training we did that day gets fixed there. And what's interesting is N3 is only predominant in the beginning half of your sleep. So let's say you sleep 8 hours. Only in the beginning is N3 predominant, right? It's like 20 to 40 minutes of each of those first 3 cycles. And then it swaps out with what we call REM sleep. REM sleep is almost an awakened state. REM sleep, you are ripping through dreams. REM sleep is actually where you work on a lot of emotional stuff, right? That's where like it's a lot of, like you were talking about before, you're doing a lot of neuron regeneration and stuff. And that's only at the back end of your sleep cycles, like all the way at the end. So basically N3 and REM switch halfway through, but N2 pretty much remains consistent. Almost half of our sleep consistently is in this N2 state, which means that most of our sleep, we're working on things that we saw that day. You know what I'm saying? And only 20% of the time that we're asleep are we actually physically healing our body. But we do so much in that.
If you're lucky, like if you've ever tracked your sleep, and there's a lot of wearables like Aura, is really interesting. You can see how much time you spend in deep sleep. You can actually use some sort of peptide supplements to increase that deep sleep.
Yeah. So again, basically physical recovery is your N3 sleep. Cognitive recovery is your N2 and REM sleep. And then you could throw emotional recovery is in your REM sleep, which I think is interesting, right? So you're really only healing your body in the beginning of your, like the first half of the time that you're asleep, right?
And then what's interesting about that is testosterone actually peaks in the later parts.
So I thought this was pretty interesting, right? So N3 is definitely where testosterone and growth hormone are released, right? And why that's important is when you release those, you get an increase in protein synthesis, which without going into a whole cell bio thing, protein synthesis is just how you make, is just how your cells create proteins, right? That goes back to like, you want to have a little throwback. That's what was it? Transcription and translation. So yeah, basically protein synthesis is how our body makes new protein cells. That happens in N3. And why that's important is you hear about cortisol levels a lot, right? Why cortisol is so bad is because it's a catabolic hormone, which means it represses muscle growth. The less you sleep, the more cortisol you have. That's just how it works. So when you think about it, for these people that are working out super hard and they just sleep a few hours a night, your body's actually pumped full of cortisol, making it harder for you to build muscles. And the other thing about a lack of sleep, which I thought was really interesting, is when you have a lack of sleep, you have insulin restriction, which means that when you wake up, your body's less able to process sugar. And why that matters is think about how many people wake up after they sleep a few hours. What's the first thing that they do? They crack a Red Bull and eat a donut. And that just cortisol shocks your body because the insulin's not like you're insulin resistant at that point. You're not actually ready to take on all that sugar. So not only does that hurt with weight loss, it just hurts with inflammation. I thought that was a pretty interesting, side effect of a lack of sleep.
Yeah, and that's another reason why, I don't know if you want to jump into it here, why for optimal performance, you want to wait 60 to 90 minutes to have your first dose of caffeine.
Same reason, right?
Because cortisol is the hormone. Like cortisol is not inherently bad. Like everything in your system, it serves a purpose. And on the other side of that, what does cortisol also do? It puts you in an enhanced survival state if it's too high all the time. So that's going to have, emotional impact. If you're in a heightened state of cortisol all the time, your emotions are going to be very heightened. So when you wake up, waiting 60 to 90 minutes for that first caffeine dose, that's crucial because you want to let cortisol peaks in the morning. You want to let cortisol do its thing and naturally wake you up.
Naturally, yeah. And like one study I found interesting, it was back in 2011. So they did a sleep restriction study with young men at a college, and half the group sleep restricted for 5 hours a day for 8 days. The other got full 8 hours of sleep. The sleep restricted saw a drop in testosterone by 10 to 15% in young, healthy men. So like extrapolate that out to a guy in his 30s, 40s, and 50s. Like, what do you think that's doing to their testosterone production? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's got to be pretty nasty, right?
That just cracked me up.
My dog had diarrhea. I was like, oh, protist.
That's fine.
Protist. No comment on protest.
Sorry to derail you, bro.
But you want to go into, so I would say like protein synthesis, big benefit of sleep. Like I said, in N3, that's where protein synthesis happens. That's when your growth hormones come. Performance and training capacity. Any sleep deprived study they've done had negative effects on exercise performance, reducing strength, endurance, training intensity. They did a 2018 meta-analysis study that showed that any sleep less than 6 hours had reduced maximal strength and endurance performance. So
yeah,
again,
and to read off some of these stats for you guys. So after 2 nights at 4 hours of sleep, your ghrelin is up 28%, your leptin is down 18%, your hunger is up 24%, and that will bias you towards carb-heavy junk food, basically. And from a hormonal profile, I think you went over the hormonal profile already. 1 week at 5 hours a night, lowered daytime testosterone 10 to 15%. You already said that.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. Think about how crazy that is, though. I mean, that's a lot.
10 to 15%.
Because then you take into account that most people, as they get older, have less free testosterone to begin with. So to think that just a lack of sleep is just accelerating that, it's kind of nasty, man. You know what I'm saying? It's yeah, that's no good, dude. So what else I wanted to touch on? Let me scroll through it. I know I highlighted a couple things here that I wanted to touch on. There was one study that I'm not going to be able to find it. Never mind. What other stuff did you? I know you looked into temperature of sleeping. I think that's a super important one. There's some pretty crazy science behind that.
So the body has to lower, correct me on the numbers here, Rain Mang, but the body has to lower its temperature. What is it, 1 to 2 degrees to fall asleep, and raise its temperature a similar amount? It's either 1 to 2, 1 to 3, or 1 to 2.
Yeah, I think it's 1 to 2. And that's how it wakes up to. Like what it drops to go in is what it raises to wake up.
So sleeping in a cool room will be advantageous. And I have my sleep site. I have my sleep kind of stack pretty dialed in. We can jump into that if you want.
Yeah. So, but with the temperature, why that's important is if you sleep in a super hot room, it actually really messes up the efficiency of your sleep, in particular for women. This is very true. A lot of studies done on this with women that their thyroid is way more sensitive to temperature changes. When, like, if you're sleeping in a very hot room as a woman, it can mess up your cycle. It can mess up a lot of things, but mainly it messes up your thyroid, which really kind of controls our weight in a lot of ways. Thyroid's a pretty crazy system in our body. But what do you do for sleep? I know you got a whole sleep stack. Walk us through your sleep schedule.
So I'm pretty regimented right now. I did change it a little bit. I have one morning commitment that's been kind of fucking up my sleep a little bit. So I've been oscillating between my actual. I'm at 90 minutes out from bed, which is 8:30 p.m. for me. I'm reducing all of the lights, turning everything warm, turning everything red, putting blue light blockers. I think.
Smart.
For bang for your buck, getting a decent pair of blue light blockers, they're going to cost you $20 on Amazon. Blue light is what's going to signal to your body to create melatonin or a lack of blue light. So when you're doom scrolling, and there's another app that you can install called Flux, that's gonna put a blue light filter on your screens. So I use a combination of Flux and the blue light blockers. So at least 90 minutes out from bed, what am I doing there? I'm making it so my body's going to create its own melatonin. When we rely on, and this is really interesting, this is something I learned for this too. Melatonin doses, if you're taking melatonin,
Bullshit.
they are so overdosed, it's crazy.
And it's bullshit for the most part.
The body needs like 0.1 milligram, 0.2 milligrams. They're selling it in 3 milligram, 5 milligram,
10 milligram.
And melatonin doesn't improve the quality of your sleep. It'll help you go to sleep quicker if you need it. It's especially useful if you just fly across the world or something like that and your body's internal circadian rhythm is off. That would be a good use for melatonin. But melatonin in general, it's something I used to take regularly. I've completely stopped taking it.
No, it was funny. In my research, I mean, there was multiple research like doctors that were basically saying like, yeah, melatonin, it's pretty useless. It's just like the melatonin industry is a couple $100 million of revenue a year. Yeah, and it's like glycine's far more effective. When you go into deep sleep, your brain releases glycine down your spine. Now, I've saw you talk about glycine.
Glycine being a non-essential amino acid.
Yeah, and it actually really helps calm down your body in a far more effective way than melatonin does, which I thought was interesting because no one talks about glycine, right? They just talk about melatonin.
This is really interesting too. I don't know if you've heard of us. So this is a Huberman quote. He discussed experiments in Siberian hamsters where high melatonin levels caused their testicles to shrink down to the size of a grain of rice and actually disrupted female estrus cycles.
Oh, that's interesting.
But he also emphasized that humans are not seasonal breeders. Our hormone systems are more robust. But there's a lot of concern about the massive doses.
So one thing I got into because of Huberman was when I wake up going outside in the sunlight for 10, 15 minutes, I usually don't get 20 because I have kids, but going outside as soon as I wake up into the sun. And then at nighttime, I go outside with my kids and we make sure to watch the sunset for circadian rhythm purposes. And I found that actually definitely does do something for your body. But a lot of that stuff gets negated if you just...
Well, it sets your internal clock, right?
Yeah. I would say the biggest problem that a lot of people have now is they're literally staring at their phone all the way up until they go to bed. And that is just so bad for your brain. It doesn't let it calm down. That's why stuff like a journal, reading, meditation. Oh, let's talk about that. I'm sure you came across this.
But even the backlit to jump on reading, a lot of people use Kindles, and even the backlights on those Kindles, if you're not using blue light blockers, those can have an impact on your body's internal melatonin.
Yeah. See, that's crazy. But like, did you find anything about working out in terms of sleep? Because basically said like you shouldn't work out at night before you go to bed because your cortisol levels are through the roof, Yeah,
you don't. It doesn't. So correct me if I'm wrong here. It doesn't really matter what time you're working out. I prefer to work out earlier in the day. I just find that I have a better day. But what you want to avoid is too heavy of a session too late in the evening.
Yeah. So basically what it said was because when you lift heavy like that, like late at night, it spikes your cortisol levels through the roof. And when you go to sleep like that, it's the same thing. It's a catabolic hormone. It's inhibiting the way that you build muscle and the way that you heal. And like that was a study from 2010 that a lack of sleep increases inflammation and cortisol levels, which promote muscle breakdown. So like that sucks, dude. You know what I mean? Like that's because I work out late at night. One thing that I definitely do, like last week, as soon as we were done, I was so fired up with hands. I went and worked out, but I always do breath work at night. Do you do any breath work at night before you go to bed, or you're a morning breath work guy?
One of the things I swear by, and I'm stoked Huberman made this popular because I was into it before it was cool, is non-sleep deep rest. Or AKA yoga. It used to be called yoga nidra. Now the neuroscientists are calling it non-sleep deep rest, which I love because then people are going to take that more seriously than if it's like woo-woo spiritual shit, which I'm obviously really into. So that's something that you can do during the day to reset your nervous system, but I implement it before I go to bed. And it puts you in a parasympathetic state. And you can go on Spotify right now, type in yoga nidra or NSDR. And if you have problems sleeping, put a 30-minute one on. It's a guided breath meditation. They take you through different parts of your body. You breathe into them, you relax them independently. By the end, you sleep like an absolute baby. If you have racing thoughts, you can take glycine. I take 3 to 5 grams of glycine, 60 minutes out, 5 days a week. I take the deep sleep inducing peptide, which significantly increases your deep sleep. I actually just gave somebody some DSIP. They had been having a lot of trouble sleeping. I gave them glycine. I gave them that, and they had the best sleep score on their Oura Ring that they've had in months.
One thing I found interesting too when I was doing this research was how much emphasis was put on the morning routine. Like not even talking about the sleep. Yeah, just about what you do, what you do in the morning.
I'm a big believer that the whole day is essential, right? There's this interesting disconnect that so many people put so much emphasis on their morning routine, which has recently been popularized and memed by guys like Ashton, right? But if you're going to set yourself up for success in the morning, you need an evening routine. And that for me is, 90 minutes out, all the red lights. You can get smart bulbs in your home, super affordable. Install the red, 90 minutes out, put everything on red. Could be even further out if you really want to dial it in. Put your blue light blockers on 1 hour before bed. It's like strict no screens for me. Nothing. Maybe I'll do some yin yoga. Maybe I'll journal a little bit, but I'm doing my nighttime routines, cooling myself. And by 10, like when I hit the pillow, within 2 minutes, I'm out. Like my body just knows, okay. Scheduling, it's really important.
Yeah, I found that interesting.
Not using an alarm clock and just letting your body wake up naturally, that's even better. Because what happens a lot of the times, because there's these sleep cycles, there's an optimal state to wake up. You ever wake up and even though you slept 8 to 9 hours or whatever it is,
bring that up because
you feel
it's incredibly
groggy. The reason for that is because you're waking up in the wrong state of your sleep or the wrong stage of your sleep. When you wake up at the lightest point of your sleep, and that's why it's better because he's working 90 minutes, it might be better to sleep in like 7.5 hours instead of 8, 6 hours instead of 6:30, just because it's these 90-minute cycles. When you wake up at that lightest point in your sleep, you feel way more recharged and way more rejuvenated. Tony does a 4-hour workout before bed.
I'll show you because the chart of sleep is interesting. Let me bring it up. I was going to put it in the notes. Is this it? So like you said, it's waves. You literally move in waves when you sleep. People think it's like like you're not just sleeping. Again, it's these 90-minute cycles. And that's why it's so important to get to try to shoot for 8 hours, because that you don't really get much REM sleep until the second half of the night. It's just how it works. You see, like in the beginning, you're barely getting any REM sleep. I think in the first 2 cycles, you get like 15, 20 minutes of REM sleep, but that's because it's focused on N3, which also makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint, right? Think about it. So if N3 is the only part of your sleep cycle that feels like heals you physically, that's the first thing you're going to want to do, right? Like you got to wake up and hunt. You got to wake up and move. So like the first half of your sleep is focused on your body, and the second half is focused on your mind, which I thought when you step back made a lot of sense and was pretty interesting. What other? So you
eating is crucial, and you can use a wearable. Like again, you can just try all this stuff out. It's really fun. You can use a Whoop, you can use an Oura Ring or whatever it is, and you can implement these different strategies, and then you can get that direct feedback. Again, with all this stuff, you don't have to take anyone's word for it. You should always try things out, see if they work. So eating at least minimum for me 2 hours before bed, ideally 3 hours before bed, because if your body is overloaded with digestion, that's going to take most of your energy, and that's going to take energy away from these key processes in your body.
Yeah, I was thinking about getting one of those Oura Ring. I hate wearing the watch. I used to wear a watch when I ran a bunch. It's just so annoying to sleep with. I feel like that ring might be easier. And I'm just curious because there's a lot of times like you think you got good sleep and then you check like a wearable and they're like you had 20% recovery. You're like, damn.
But that can also kind of screw with you as well. You have to take that with a grain of salt. Like ultimately, when you learn how your body actually works, you know when you feel good. So there can be a psychosomatic, to the detriment of some of these wearables is there can be a placebo effect where you think you feel great, but then you see a shitty sleep score and you go, oh, maybe I don't feel great. So that's a caveat to all of these wearables. The more you get into this stuff, the more you learn how to naturally be intuitive with your body. Like this week, for instance, I felt that little bit of pre-sick, and I haven't been sick in months now because the more in tune I get with my body, the more I realize, okay, I can only cold plunge for 2 minutes a day instead of 5 minutes today. Instead of doing a heavy workout today, I'll just do some cardio and mobility. But the wearables give you a good idea of your baseline. You just can't fall into taking them as gospel.
Now, do you try to set a schedule where you wake up the same time every day, basically 7 days a week?
Yeah, if I have something in the morning, like a Spaces or something, I put an alarm clock on. If I don't, no alarm clock. And I just let my body naturally wake up when it needs to.
Yeah, because I mean, that seems pretty important in all the stuff I was reading.
Though. That's a real luxury. You have to have a schedule that accommodates that and lets you do that.
No, for sure, dude. That's for sure. I've gotten pretty good with that in the sense of, I mean, it's not good because I go to bed at like midnight and I wake up at 6 every morning. But yeah, I don't wake up with an alarm clock. I'm up at 6. It's just I've been doing it now for. No, and I think that's why it's 6 because it usually gives me like a half hour for the chaos begins. Yeah,
and you know, I'm such a big believer in that morning Zen time. Like,
dude, the research shows. I was shocked how much these sleep analysts were talking about the morning, how important the morning routine is. You know, and these were like. I also had no idea how intense the in sleep, like when you go to a sleep lab, like all the shit they hook up to you, they put in your head, the sensors all over you. I didn't realize it was that intense. I've never done like an in-lab sleep study, but that was like one of the things I was listening to. It's actually where I learned I just listened to a guy break down because I don't know if you ever saw one of those reports. Because I was like, oh, let me take a look at this thing. I'm like, oh, this makes no fucking sense. Let me listen to a guy explain it. No idea you guys are doing.
Well, speaking of sleep studies, this is something that you and NASA kind of got me on. I've never been a big believer in naps.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I've always been more of okay, well, if I'm tired, I'm just going to drink more caffeine and push through it and not be a pussy. But recently, you know, you were telling me about the benefits of naps, and then I found this NASA nap study. And yeah, do you want to dive into that, bro?
Yeah, so NASA, well, it's kind of crazy, right? Because it opens up like a whole can of worms on a lot of these other professions. But yeah, basically, it's called like the NASA nap study. I think that's pretty sure what it's called, or it got coined at least. And it basically proved that they could be as short as 20 minutes. Never longer than 90 minutes, right? Because 90 minutes is a full sleep cycle.
Yeah, the number they were playing a lot with was 26 minutes.
Yeah, is could have like profound effects on someone that's super tired. And I thought that
54% improvement in alertness and 34% improvement in performance.
now, when you think about that, like you did some blue collar stuff. So I could attest to that, like personally. Sometimes when it would be 100 degrees out and you would just take that 20, that half hour nap at lunch, you would wake up and just feel like $1,000,000. Like that, I feel like that was a common thing in the shanty. There'd always be like a couple guys sleeping during lunch instead of eating. But it makes sense, right? Because of that schedule, right? I only get that 6 hours if I'm lucky. When I put my daughter down for a nap, I usually take try to get like a 40-minute nap in. And I literally wake up and go to the gym. That's when I work out. I wake up and go to the gym right after that. And yeah, I think it charges me up. But every person's different. It even says it in the study. Every person, their bodies adapt to that differently. But it did state pretty specifically, you do not want to nap longer than 90 minutes because then you're kind of what you were talking about. Now you're over a cycle. Now and it was never supposed to be late in the afternoon. It's supposed to be early in the afternoon, late morning. Because the closer you get into the evening, now you're actually going to mess up your sleep cycle, right?
Well, a caveat to that as well is if you struggle with insomnia, you probably should avoid napping.
Yep, said that too. Yeah.
Have you heard of this nappuccino?
No, what's that?
Drink caffeine just before napping. The caffeine kicks in when you wake up, doubling alertness boost.
Interesting. Oh, but that's what I was going to say. So NASA creates this study, gets like big popularity. So then these other professions start to analyze sleep, right? And what they find is an overwhelming amount of nurses, doctors, surgeons, police officers, firefighters. There's actually a whole study done on firefighters, how they're all super tired. Like it was like over 50% of them had burnout. They were tired. And like you just said, what it does to your mental effects when you're tired, it decreases cognitive function. What's the word I'm looking for? When you react to something fast. Jesus, that's how fried my brain is. Yeah, reaction time.
Hold together, bro. We're supposed to be professional.
Dude, that's how shot I am. But it affects all these things, and you go, well, that's interesting because these are the people that are caring for our lives.
Dude,
right?
A surgeon.
Surgeon, yeah. Well, think about it. Think about medical school.
Situation. Like,
have you ever known someone, or like my neighbor was doing his residency, and he would sometimes be on a shift for 36 hours. And you're just like, how does that make any fucking sense?
Well, and after 24 hours, you have the performance and cognition of someone who's legally drunk.
Yeah. So that's where so there's like this interesting thing going on with firefighters right now, where they're trying to change the hours that they work, because they basically work 1 day on, 3 days off, but that 1 day on is a full 24-hour shift. And this guy who was in the military ends up doing this study. This is like maybe 2017, and kind of shows like, hey man, this is actually terrible. And not only is it bad for the body, but it's bad for recruiting for the firefighters. Like, you're actually spending more money because of all the overtime that goes into it and the training, and no one keeps doing it. And they're actually starting to change the firefighters' schedules based on this medical data. Because they're proving like, dude, these guys are so tired. Like, there's a better chance of them dying. Like, they need to, like, that just isn't smart. I thought that was pretty crazy.
They bring a teddy bear out of a burning building instead of a baby.
Yeah, right. Like, I didn't mean it. Yeah, that was, I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, impulsiveness, Shill Turner, absolutely.
Here's a good question.
Lack of empathy.
Yeah, well, that's Shill every day, but are you guys able to get proper sleep? It feels like there's no balance when you're trying to build a business or get your life together. I assume this is normal. So, like we said earlier, there's going to be compromises sometimes. There's going to be deadlines depending on the responsibilities in your life as well. I'm pretty blessed. I don't have a lot of responsibilities. I don't have kids. I get to make my own hours. There's going to be compromises sometimes. You just have to do your best. And for me personally, I've been very blessed with severe mental health issues. So I have to treat this like a job. It's not really optional because I know what could happen if I don't get proper sleep. And then I know how much success in my future I'll be trading off.
Well, that's the thing, right? Everything's a trade-off. So, and again, I'm not here to say like, yeah, if you're tired, just don't do your grind, don't run your business. That's not what I'm trying to say. But what you have to try to do as hard as you can is to structure your day where you at least give yourself a window to try to sleep. Start with 7 hours, right? If you're a guy, it all depends on where you're at, where you're coming from. If you're sleeping 5 hours a day, the difference between 5 hours and 7 hours medically is insane, like truly insane. The data is overwhelming. Again, that's one thing about the sleep data that I found so interesting is, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, man. Like sleeping is good for your brain, your heart, healing your body, cardiovascular, longevity, just cognition in your brain, just basic functions that, like Sean was saying in the beginning, it's like this trade-off. They said like no sleep season. You will perform better. You will be more efficient at what you do if you get more sleep. That's just real. That's just a real thing, man. Like you will.
Like you were saying earlier, a lot of people can evaluate their day and find a lot of bullshit in their day. So you may think you might not have time to get a proper night's sleep, but when you really evaluate what you're doing, you might be able to cut out a lot of the bullshit from your day. Not only that, but if your brain's working significantly better, you might be able to get everything done that would normally take you much longer in a much shorter period of time.
Dude, for sure, like that right there. I think that's the biggest takeaway because no one tries, right? They don't try to increase their sleep. They're functioning on this preconceived notion that like they are operating at the highest level cognitively already. And it's like, dude, unless you try it, you'd have no idea. And then when you start to get more sleep, you realize like, damn, dude, like I am way sharper. And for the people that, you can't really increase it, there's definitely like cheap supplementation and things you could do in your diet to help sharpen your mind, right? Just like basic creatine, like monohydrate creatine is 100% a nootropic. Any type of the like mushroom coffee stuff, all that's great for your brain. Just things to
main cordyceps, chaga, reishi, ashwagandha.
I got one right here from the man himself, Paul Stamets.
Oh, that's the goods.
Body and brain, and all this is like 7 different mushrooms, man. Now, does this taste good? No. I find them all to taste like shit. But any type of that, all that stuff helps. But in the end, like you can't replace supplements will never replace sleep, man. There's no data to prove that. It's just not. And like you could take methylene blue. I took like 10 drops of that shit before. It's like maybe this will fire me up. Didn't work. I couldn't get reaction time. So there really is no substitute, no supplement that replaces sleep. There just isn't.
Yeah, here's some crazy stats because again, it's a trade-off, right? Maybe you get more done, maybe you don't. Sacrificing sleep and sleep shaming is a real thing.
For sure, man.
Sleep, especially in crypto, sleep shaming is insane to the point.
In general, I think a business owner is a big thing,
and that's the whole hustle grind mindset. But when you look into some of these stats, heart disease, sleeping less than 5 hours a night equals 200 to 300% higher risk of clogged arteries. Death risk, 12% higher chance of dying from anything. Immune crash, 1 bad night of sleep equals 28% fewer natural killer cells. Less than 4 times more likely to catch a cold. So again, it becomes this trade-off, right? Maybe you get more work done. Again, maybe you don't because your brain's working better. But then maybe you get sick for a week and then your stats drop all across the board.
Yeah, we didn't talk about immune function with sleep. Highly correlated. Harley, in that immune system is actually in that N3 sleep too. That's where your immune system boosts up. Super important. I see someone says
Alzheimer's as well.
Yeah, because the brain doesn't heal. And in Alzheimer's, again, I want to say it's Alzheimer's, right? You should look this up quick. Is that what they're calling type 3 diabetes? Is it Alzheimer's? It's one of them. Alzheimer's is so much of it has to do with inflammation of the brain.
Yeah, it is Alzheimer's.
Yeah, inflammation of the brain, Matt. And inflammation of the brain, we touched on it with intermittent fasting, helps reduce that. We're talking about it with sleep here, helps reduce that. Like Alzheimer's, for sure, some of it's genetic. I don't know how much, but a lot of it comes down to diet and the way you sleep. But I see someone ask about the side effects of methylene blue. Here's the truth. I don't know. It's been around for a long time, but it for sure was like a dye used in labs.
It was a dye, and they use it to clean fish tanks.
Yeah,
Again, like the caveat with any of these this is why the sleep one's cool. Because like you've said multiple times in this stream, this is something where the science has stayed consistent. With any of these peptides, methylene blue that we're talking about, we don't necessarily know. Just like with vaping and popcorn lung or giving your children Adderall, we don't know in 30 years if methylene blue is going to make your dick fall off. Like, we just don't have the clinical studies or stats for that.
For the record, I take that sparingly. The last time I took it was before the other stream that I do, the flip the stock market, because those guys are a lot smarter than me. So try to dial up the brain a little bit.
Say, bro?
No, I just took it before this one because I knew Sean was bringing the heat tonight.
It's funny, after every one of these streams, I have such imposter syndrome. I have to ask Mang. I'm like, was I good? Are you sure that was good? I felt bad. I felt off. They're like, no, it was good. All right, cool.
No, we have a few minutes left. If anyone has any questions, because I would sum it up to say, data says 7 to 9 hours of sleep is what you should be aiming for. Again, it's good for your body, your brain, your heart.
Shill, the IQ test. Okay, don't feel too bad, Shill, because I think that's a very high stat for you. I think B, Mang had a similar score. So
77.
But I'd be really interesting, Shill, if you actually got your shit together from a biohacking state, how well you could perform. Because my man, Shill fucking grinds, man. He's a mess. He's falling apart, bro.
He's actually fishing right now, virtually though.
He's virtually fishing.
Virtually fishing.
He cleans his virtual tank with methylene blue.
Yeah, there you go. He doesn't use it. He puts it in his virtual fish tank. It's just all over his floor.
Thank you. Yeah, we're running up on an hour, folks. If anyone has any more questions about sleep, I wrote down some stuff. Let's see if there's anything we missed, but let us know. It's an important one. And again, it's all experimentation. You might find that integrating good sleep lets you sleep more, lets you be more healthy, lets you get more work done.
Yeah, no, it's again, pretty straight through. I found that really interesting.
So ideally, you want to cut out caffeine. It's different for other individuals, but ideally cutting out caffeine at least 8 hours before sleep.
Yeah, Matt Walker said that too, so I couldn't even discount it. I was like, fuck, did you say 8 hours?
Yeah, so I'm going to sleep at 10, 2 p.m. is my cutoff.
Mm-hmm.
Because caffeine's another one of those, like nicotine, which, I love. It's one that has significantly diminishing results. Think about it. If you're trading that one day, taking caffeine closer to sleep, you're going to need more the next day. If you're taking it in the morning before your body naturally clears cortisol and adenosine, caffeine binds to adenosine receptors. When you take caffeine too close in the morning, that's why the ideal window is waiting 60 to 90 minutes, doing your walk in the sunlight, your forward ambulation. When you do that, you can actually avoid that afternoon caffeine crash, allow your body to do its own natural process, and then the caffeine will actually give you a boost. Instead of needing the caffeine to bring you to baseline, you can enjoy some of its cognitive enhancing and nootropic effects.
And most of the recent studies, and I'm curious to see how this moves forward, is basically phones are ruining people's sleep. Jesus, Shill.
Bro, she'll wakes up in the middle of the night. It'll be because I'm on Asia time, right? Singapore time. I'll see him on at 4 a.m. in the morning. I go to sleep. He goes, I'm just peeing, checking some charts.
Yeah, dude, which is like the worst thing that you can do. It's like literally.
Which is crazy because he's such a high performer. I wonder, maybe Shill has that gene. You want to jump in that gene?
Yeah, jump into that gene because I used to tell myself I had that.
Which you don't.
No shot.
And why don't you have it? What are the statistics? What is that gene? And what is on that gene?
I can't draw the. I won't be able to pull it up in my brain right now, but I know it's like.
Talk about it anecdotally a little bit. We'll get ChatGPT to help, right?
So basically, there is a gene that a tiny percent of the population has that lets you fully function on 4 hours of sleep, which is wild, right? Because we're saying we need 7
Short
to 9.
sleeper phenotype, a rare genetic trait that lets some people naturally sleep much less than the average without the usual health damage. About 1% of the population
It is 1%. Yeah.
thrive on 4 to 6 hours a night long term with no cognitive decline, mood issues, or disease risk.
So I remember reading about this years ago when I found Jocko Willink, because Jocko Willink would wake up at 4:30 in the morning every day and like post a picture. And I was like trying to grind, right? Like same thing. Like I got to get up that early. And then I was listening to his podcast and he was like, maybe I have that gene. And what I found interesting, there you go. Nice one, Shill. I'll take that. But what I found was a lot of these, there's a higher percentage of the special forces people that have that, which kind of makes sense, right? Because those guys probably, if you're on some mission, I don't know how much you're getting sleep if you're, they probably stay up for a few days at a time. But yeah, phones are ruining time management and sleep. Absolutely. That's why, dude, I would try to tighten up I would really look at your schedule honestly. I would honestly look at the way your day works, and every day is going to be different, right? But honestly, take a look at your day. I also find a lot of people block out, I need this hour at the end of the day for the gym. And it's like, man, if your schedule is so packed and it's going to be like that for a little bit, you'd be surprised how much you could fit in, 20-minute workout in the morning. I know there's something different, 20 minutes at the end of the day. Like I don't work out for an hour, rarely, unless I'm doing like some type of cardio at the end of the workout. Like
we can tell by those traps, bro.
Yeah, I'm in and out of there like 30, 35 minutes usually. Like, I don't know. I don't think it all depends though. If I have time, don't get me wrong, I'd love to be in there for an hour and a half and just get the fuck after it. But the way my life is right now, I don't really have like an hour and a half to work out. I got about 45 minutes. I go in there and try to make it work, I think that's part of it.
This is interesting. It says, warning, most people who think they're short sleepers are just chronically sleep deprived and paying for it in performance, mood, immunity, and long-term health.
So it's long-term health, man. That's the thing about this grind set is, like you mentioned before, Alzheimer's. Like, there's no free lunch, man. There's no free lunch. So
yeah, maybe you build your business and your empire and you're super rich by 40, 50.
And they can't tie your fucking shoes, And
then you die from a heart attack.
Yeah, like so. But again, we're not saying be lazy. We're just saying try hard to put sleep.
It's the opposite of lazy. You're being the most efficient and effective you can possibly be. Because again, we talked about the cognitive decline. What is crypto but being able to make crucial decisions very quickly? The better your mind works, the better decisions you're going to make, whether that's in crypto, your business, or your life, the more results you're going to be. Yeah, that's the whole point of this. It's not to be lazy. It's to get the most bang for your buck and also kind of deprogram you a little bit from some of the bullshit that we've been taught. The sleep psyop, the sleep shaming.
Yeah, for sure. No, if anyone has any other questions, I think we went over pretty good. We're working on an awesome interview next week. I'm pretty sure we're gonna get it. A guy that's been in like the fitness industry for a long time, power lifter, competitive lifter, part of the Giga community. I think he would be an awesome interview. So I'm super pumped about that. We'll learn a bunch because I will be the first one to admit that I don't know much about that side of fitness, like the powerlifting and competitive side. I definitely don't. So it would be cool.
I'm excited to talk about steroids.
Yeah, it's going to be cool to learn the physical side. He runs he trains, he's a trainer, he has call them clients, athletes. I'm not sure what they are, maybe mix of both. So it'll be cool to learn that. He's very structured in the way he works out. I don't know if you saw some of the stuff he posts, like he does a spreadsheet, but very cool. I just feel like we could learn a ton, man. And we will look like actual twinks while he's on the screen, but can't win them all, right?
Speak for yourself, bro. I'm going to get all out.
No, keep doing yoga.
I'm a fucking synthol, bro.
Yeah, dude, I'll just wear a hoodie that episode. That's all. No big deal.
I'm going to put the Giga Chat filter on. I'm going to get syntholed out. I'll give you guys a quick recap if you're just tuning in, because the sleep, my nighttime practice is really easy to integrate. Again, 90 minutes out, get those smart bulbs, put the red lights on, put the blue light blockers, the red light glasses. 60 minutes out, I'm taking glycine. I'm also taking deep sleep inducing peptide. I'm doing that 5 days a week. No screens, no work, 60 minutes out. You can do some yin yoga, journaling, just lay in bed, read a book, whatever the fuck you want. Whatever makes you feel good. Other potential things to hack your sleep: mouth tape, nose dilator, eye mask.
I mouth taped for like 2 months.
He loves leaving the blinds open so that natural light is helping him wake up in the morning. That's a great one.
Yeah, for sure. That's a real good one. Wake up with the light. And if you don't want to do that, Huberman talks about it a lot. As soon as you wake up, walk outside. Look at the sun for 10 minutes. Don't bring your phone out there. Don't be staring at your phone. Go outside, get your eyes in the light. Step on some grass if you can. I'm a big believer in that too. That shit's real. That's not woo-woo.
Hippie bullshit.
Yeah, grounding's real for sure. I realized that when I got up here.
He calls it forward ambulation. I'm like, we know you're smart, Andrew Huberman. Just call it walking. You don't need to flex your intellectual vernacular by calling it forward but you guys can use that. If you're talking to a friend, you can say, yeah, I forward ambulate in the morning, and then they'll think you're much smarter than you are. I've been doing it for years. Try it out.
Yeah, might work. And if anyone hasn't checked out Shiny's pump inspirational Giga video, that got me so fired up. I was going to try to work out, but I literally am so tired. I don't think I'll do it. I think I'm just going to settle on, I did 100 push-ups today. Today was a bad day, but tomorrow will be a better one.
Do some active mobility, bro. That's what I do when I'm too tired. Like, get a little movement. You can go on YouTube. You can throw on like a 20-minute little yoga sequence.
That's a good idea because my legs are sore as shit still, and that's a good idea.
Man, yin yoga is an amazing way to fall asleep, amazing way to calm down the nervous system, lower cortisol, go into that restorative parasympathetic state.
No, that's a good idea. Yeah, so that was a good one, dude. We did good, Sean. We did it. Next week will be better. I apologize. I wasn't able to fully Rain Man it today like I usually would.
You did great, bro.
Yeah, that was awesome. Guys, I appreciate you stopping in. Again, 7 to 9 hours of sleep. If you can't do it, get as close as you can. It will benefit your life greatly.
Yeah, and if you can't get, again, it's quantity, but it's also quality. So if you have a schedule that just doesn't allow you, integrate these things into your nighttime practice. So at least if you're getting less sleep, it's better quality. And try the 26-minute nap thing out too. I've been doing it this week. It's great. It's allowing me to drink less caffeine, have more performance, making my caffeine more effective.
Yeah, that's a good one. Caffeine gets so overused, dude. So
yeah. I'm basically proofing liters of yerba mate at this point.
Yeah. On that note,
guys, thanks for
tuning in.
All right,
fam. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to another Giga Motion stream. Thanks for taking this time to become the best version of yourself, one day at a time, one motherfucking stream at a time. We will see you next week, and we will see you, DCA gang, on the motherfucking timeline. Peace, guys.
Most of us often chase rather pumps than established memes. And a green candle is somehow spoiled for us until it's screenshot. We stare at charts, forgetting it changes nothing. We watch charts, but not ourselves. This is a disaster. For as a result of confusing dopamine hits with actual profit, we are destroying our net worth. We are so tied up in FOMO and charts that we've lost all conviction. Time to wake up. What is alpha? Obviously, nobody can say, because it isn't just drawing lines on charts. It isn't rotation meta, that's just an idea. Alpha is the Giga cycle cannot be explained in words.